So we're entering the mandala of awakening tonight via the southern gateway, and we're going to meet Ratnasambhava, the jewel-born or jewel-producing Buddha. And I guess you know that the five Buddha mandalas, which you can see in temple art and in tankas, originated during the Vajrayana period of Buddhism, where you get a great exuberance of Buddha figures, each with their own particular visualization, imagery and symbolism, possibly arising in the meditation experience of some great teacher. And each Buddha represents an aspect of enlightenment. And the figures had their own devotees, their own cults, you could say in the devotional sense, and probably Ratnasambhava was the least well known, but Sangharakshita suggested that Ratnasambhava might come to prominence in the West because of his association with beauty and also the arts. So we're entering a realm called the glorious. It's a sunny realm, the purified earth element associated with the sun at its zenith at noon. He's a warm and sunny character, a world of sunshine, an experience of abundance, a flow of awakening, and all the treasures of the liberated mind, and an experience of the beauty of everything, with fountains of creativity and spiritual energy. So Ratna means jewel, and the jewel in Buddhism is associated with the spiritual riches which are buried within us. And I'd like us to look at I've got a very few pictures which Stiranaga can bring up now. So if we could have this first slide, please, Stiranaga. Great, thank you. So Ratnasambhava is made of yellow light, the color of ripe corn, golden honey. His magical function is the harvest magic. So the magic of increase and enrichment, that you get that abundance of everything at harvest time. And these Buddhas are described very well in Vasantra's brilliant book, Meeting the Buddhas. I'm sure you're all aware of it. And in that book, there's a table giving all the different correspondences for each Buddha, their symbols, their mudras, their klesha that they overcome, their chakra, their consort, their wisdom, and so on. Ratnasambhava's body, you'll see, is adorned with jewels, and he wears the crown of all the Dhyana Buddhas in his hair, indicating that when we contemplate him, we're in contact with all the Buddhas, with the whole mandala. He's seated in meditation posture, and his right hand is outstretched with palm open towards us in the Varada mudra, the the gesture of supreme giving, and his other hand rests at his navel. So he is associated with the navel chakra, and he's particularly associated with generosity. So he's the Buddha of giving. And the jewel that he holds in the upturned palm resting at his navel is the wish-fulfilling jewel, which represents the bodhicitta, the awakened heart-mind. He sits on a throne of 4 horses. His consort is called Mamaki, which means the mind maker. So she makes everything hers. Ratnasambhava is associated with the human realm. His poison is pride, and his wisdom is the wisdom of equality. So I want to come back to some of those points tonight. It's such a rich field that it's impossible to say it all. So I want to just pick out some points to explore tonight. And these are the dual symbolism, the giving, quality of giving, the human realm, the wisdom of equality, and the horse symbolism. And I want to particularly explore how contemplating this figure is a path to awakening. So let's start with the dual symbolism. And let's start with a well-known story. It's always nice to hear a story. So once upon a time, there was a person who was going on a journey. And this person had a friend, and the friend was worried about this soon-to-be voyager, how they'd manage, because it seemed they didn't really have much clue about how to get by in life. And the voyager comes to say goodbye to the friend, gets drunk, maybe it's a bit of a party, and falls asleep. And the friend has to go off on some engagement, some business. But before they go, while their friend is asleep, they sew a precious jewel into the voyager's cloak as a present while they're asleep. And they don't know about it. Time goes by, and sure enough, the voyager gets into all sorts of scrapes and difficulties on their journey. They don't find a livelihood nor enough to eat, and they fall on really hard times. They're completely unaware that they've got a jewel sewn into their cloak, and they come back with their tail between their legs, rather worse for the experience. So when the 2 friends meet again and the voyager relates his journey, the friend tuts disapprovingly and says, didn't you realize that I had sewn a precious jewel in your cloak? Didn't you find it? There you were, struggling, and you had it with you all the time. Now go and sell the jewel right now and get everything you need. So this is, of course, a very well-known parable in the East, found in the White Lotus Sutra, which is a very important devotional text read throughout the Buddhist world. It's full of beautiful little stories like that. The jewel is something precious and beautiful, and in this story, it represents that most precious thing we could have, that it's with us all the time, but we don't realize it. It represents our true self, our deepest being, the bedrock of ourselves. And we can think that money and success are our most important thing. But here, it is not our possessions or our knowledge, our career, or even our religion, which is the most important thing. The precious jewel our true self, us at our deepest, with our human self-reflective awareness, that is our most precious thing. And it's something we should never lose sight of or let ourselves be separated from. This precious thing, who we are in our deepest sense. And like a jewel, it's something bright and scintillating. I just want to read what Sangharakshita says about this in the drama of cosmic enlightenment, which is his commentary on the White Lotus Sutra. I've always found it deeply thrilling. So he says, but why is it that the jewel that represents the true self? The most obvious reason is that the jewel is the most precious of all material things. So it is a worthy symbol of the true self, which is infinitely precious. Then the jewel is bright, shining, brilliant, and the true self is like this too, although its brilliance is of a completely different kind, but comes within rather than being reflected from without. The true self, one's own true being, is self-luminous, conscious, aware. In fact, even to say that it is conscious is not correct, because it does not possess consciousness as a quality, something which is, as it were, stuck on from outside and able to be removed. It is in its very nature, our own true being is pure, transparent consciousness with no distinction between subject and object. So that's the end of that quote. It's Sangharakshita's discussion of what the jewel means, I think, is fantastic. If ever you want to read that, in my book, it's around page 177. But the traveller in the story got drunk and fell asleep, and often in stories, getting drunk represents ignorance, and it suggests our unawareness, and even that this is our normal state, and that we do need a good friend to come along and give us a good shake and wake us up. Jewels lie in the earth, encased in rock that has to be cracked open to reveal them. They may be covered in earth and dust for years, but these layers of dirt can be cleaned to reveal the jewel in all its pristine and unblemished glory. So this is an important myth about the awakening of our qualities of human beings. It's saying that at our deepest level, our awareness is pure and pristine, but it has been covered over by a layer of dust and dirt. And where some people are concerned, you have to say that that is a very thick layer of grime indeed. And our task is to clear away the dirt, to reveal the wonder of the jewel of the mind. And this may take many years. We fall asleep. Yes, we get lost in our own thought worlds, but the good news is that with just a click of the fingers, we're back with our precious awareness. So the jewel is always there for us. It's a practice to keep returning to awareness, and it's about waking up in the midst of our mundane life. So returning to Ratnasambhava, we've seen that the jewel he holds is the Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling jewel of the bodhicitta, which is the arising of the will to enlightenment for all sentient beings. The chitta meaning the heart as well as the mind of enlightenment. So what Ratnasambhava suggests to me is that how we get there is through generosity. And how we get to that is by having a sense of our own abundance. And to me, there's always been an energy flow which comes in from abundance to generosity, and from the generosity we create more abundance. So it's very nice to sit with the hands in the mudra, and we'll do that a bit in a while. So if we look at the hands in our figure of Ratnasambhava, we'll see that, and in all the tankas, the hands, or at least most of them that I've seen, that the hands in the Vajra gesture are red. So they're smoking red with giving. So can we just have a little look at the next 3 slides, dear Anag, please? Yeah, so this, you can see the hands are red. This one is a Tibetan tanka. The first one was a Nepalese tanka. And this one is from the Gyangtse, Tibet, a rupa, very beautiful. And this, another tanka, shows Ratnasambhava with the wish-fulfilling jewel in his palm. So maybe we could go back, if we could go back to the first one, which I think shows Ratnasambhava very clearly. It's one that I've had on my shrine and meditated on. So giving is something that every human being can do, and there are many ways to give, not just material things, but giving fearlessness, which I could say a lot about, but I haven't got time to say it all. You can give education and culture, and giving ourselves, as in the famous quote by Walt Whitman in Song of Myself, "Behold, I do not give lectures or a little charity. When I give myself." So we can ask ourselves, do we give? Are we giving on a daily basis? Do we give ourselves wholeheartedly? Can we remember to do that more? Can we really listen to the people that we're with? It takes a lot of listening and empathy to give appropriately what is needed. And I think we do have to be discriminating in where we give, as far as what is the most appropriate place to expend our energy. We can have a lot of enthusiasm and give to lots of different projects, and we can find ourselves giving to too many causes which we can't sustain. I remember that when my children were young, I think Sangharakshita was saying it'd be good if people got involved at a local level, which of course is true, and became governors of schools, and I became a governor of my son's nursery. And at that time, there was a huge fight with the abolition of Inner London Education Authority, which we were fighting against. But it was just got very, very political, quite a lot of anger. And although it was a good idea, there were a lot of other people that could have, done that job. And I had to put that down. So yeah, we have to be a bit careful in discerning, really, to give appropriately. Sangharakshita makes a very thought-provoking point about what we need in order to give, which has always stuck with me. He says in Wisdom Beyond Words, there is in fact only one need of one's own that has to be fulfilled before one can preoccupy oneself with the needs of others. And it is not a physical or material need, but simply a matter of emotional positivity and security, We need to appreciate our own worth and feel it is appreciated by others, to love ourselves and feel we are loved by others. And this is no easy matter for a lot of us, to love ourselves and feel we're loved by others. And this is where friendship is so important. And it's so important that we do rejoice in people's merits whenever we can, because it can make such a difference to the way people see themselves. So expressing appreciation is a very important thing that we can give in this respect. And, you know, if we give, we don't know how it's going to come back to us, but it will come back to us in some form, in a sort of magical way, sometimes when we're least, and in a way we're least expecting. So are we going beyond ourselves in our giving? I've been listening to quite a lot of talks by the poet David Whyte, Whyte, recently. And he's often in his talks talking about his friendship with the Irish poet John O'Donoghue, who died fairly young. And obviously David Whyte really misses him and constantly rejoices in his merits. They were two poets who got on like a house on fire, and they really sparked each other off, spending many happy times together, sitting in John's cottage in County Clare in Ireland, discussing poetry, philosophy, and the world. And he particularly quotes John O'Donoghue as saying, "Go beyond yourself, go beyond yourself." And he often relates how John encouraged him to be generous. And one tale in particular was to do with David Whyte's father, with whom David didn't have a great relationship. The father never praised or encouraged him. He was quite a Yorkshireman, and his mother was Irish, very different. I think he had a wonderful relationship with his mother, and feels a great connection with Ireland. But his father was getting old and was struggling financially, and John O'Donoghue encouraged David to give him some money. "How much can you give?" says John. "Well, £1,000, says David. "Double it," says John. "Well, yes, I could perhaps give £2,000. "Double it," says John. And that carries on with John saying, "Come on, go beyond yourself." Whatever figure they ended up with changed the relationship between David Whyte and his father, who'd been very on the edge with money worries. And the amount that he gave him put him out of that worry onto a more secure footing. And when that happened, he seemed to blossom, and then their relationship blossomed. And with John O'Donoghue's encouragement, David Whyte was able to give what was needed. So go beyond yourself, said with an Irish accent, go beyond yourself. Here is David Whyte's poem, Just Beyond Yourself, dedicated to John O'Donoghue. Just beyond yourself. Just beyond yourself. It's where you need to be. Half a step into self-forgetting, and the rest restored by what you'll meet. There is a road, always beckoning. When you see the two sides of it closing together at that far horizon and deep in the foundations of your own heart, at exactly the same time, that's how you know it's the road you have to follow. That's how you know it's where you have to go. That's how you know you have to go. That's how you know. Just beyond yourself. It's where you need to be. So this poem is not just about giving to others, but giving to oneself, allowing ourselves to go forward in life, follow our dreams, make time for what is important to us and what is beckoning us. Go beyond yourself. And of course, that is what we have to do eventually to realize the bodhicitta. We have to forget ourselves and give and keep giving of ourselves. And that is when we learn the joy of giving. Sangharakshita's give until you swoon with joy. Giving is the first step of learning the joy of going beyond ourselves, to go beyond being self-regarding to being other-regarding. And when we're ready for this, we will learn that the earthly material treasures that we've sought for so long are nothing compared to the happiness of holding the bodhicitta. And it's because we've learned the lesson that to give is really to receive. And once we've learned that happiness, it doesn't really matter about outcomes. When adversity comes along, which it will in any human life, if we take that as our path, there will be so many insights to be gained. So it doesn't really matter about outcomes. As Milarepa sings in the Song of a Yogi's Joy, the more ups and downs, the more joy I feel. So in other words, bring it on. And this equanimity is quite possible for us. And I know at least one person well enough to know that she doesn't mind about outcomes. And she is a Ratnasambhava practitioner. Ratnasambhava's wisdom is all there for us. And it starts with a simple act of giving, which we can all do. We just need to relax and come into our heart and contact that humanness, our natural qualities as human beings. When we relax, when we contact our heart, we have a natural generosity, a wish to be generous. I'd like to finish this talk by talking about something else. And I'd like to talk about horses and share with you a particular association I have with regard to Ratnasambhava's horses. So we're going to have some couple more pictures now, the remaining two Stiranaga. So I've often visited the Castle Museum in Norwich and found myself in front of this painting by Alfred Munnings. A local boy for you. Alfred Munnings, born in 1878. He was an impressionist and he lived in Dedham. You probably know this, in the borough of Colchester. And he has a museum there, in Dedham, which I haven't visited, but I'd love to do that. And this is a painting called Gravel Pit in Suffolk. It's a huge painting and it's incredibly sunny, and the white horses in particular the white horse has many colours. Yeah, and it is an impressionist picture. They can't really see that, but it has many. It's white. It's made up of many colours. For me, the scene and the horses have that goldenness that I associate with Ratnasambhava, and that fresh energy of the coming into life of everything you get in the sunshine, in the early summer, in the rich, verdant fields. It's full of sun, light, and energy. maybe you'll come up to Norwich and, we can go and have a look at it together. So the next picture is called Sunny June, which we're having at the moment. So, as you know, Munnings was very fond of and painted many, many horses. This one's called Sunny June, which we've just had. The horses are rippling with vigor as they're led through the countryside, which is abundant with blossoms and poppies and all sorts of wildflowers. So that is the end of my talk, and that just some of the symbolism of this very rich figure of Ratnasambhava. So we'll have an opportunity to discuss some of the aspects in our groups, but we're now going to spend a little time meditating. So I'd like to just give you a few minutes to get yourself ready to do a bit of meditation. It'd be good if you could get a cushion or a pillow, I think, to support your hands, because we're going to be talking about the hands and that cycle of giving and abundance that I talked about. Just take a look at you all. See if you're ready. So we're just going to spend a few minutes relaxing, nothing to do except breathe. Letting go of the day with the out breath. Aware of our feet touching the earth, the ground. Contact with the earth element. Aware of the earth and all that that means. Letting in that abundance of everything. Allowing the earth element in our bones to soften. Appreciating how the earth is always there for us, supporting us. aware of our spine, and allowing the breath to massage the spine. Having an intention of softening any areas of tension. Maybe aware of the breath moving up the inside of the spine. And introducing the idea of letting the body and the mind be a field of kindly awareness. Having a sense of our heart and our humanness, a natural sensitivity as a human being. Letting our hands feel supported. The left hand is resting at the navel, palm up, and the right hand is outstretched, palm up in the Vardha Mudra. Can be aware of the navel area, breathing into the navel area. And having a sense of well-being, the well-being that maybe comes from if we've had a good meal, we feel full and happy after a good meal we've enjoyed. Enjoying some pleasant feelings at the navel. And allowing a sense of abundance for all the things that you have in your life that you appreciate and enjoy. Having a sense maybe of those fields of the summer fields full of flowers. Breathing with the heart and a sense of abundance. Aware of that and the outstretched palm in the Vardha Mudra. We might get a sense of tingling in our hands. So this is a very natural flow from our own abundance to the giving the wish to give. So you can always sit in this, with this mudra. Sometimes I do it, I might do it in the shrine room, but I might have a blanket over my hands. But that isn't necessary to hide it. And you might want to think briefly of a friend or friend whose company we enjoy and who are a blessing for us. We extend our hand towards them. And now allow someone from our day we perhaps don't usually notice or we don't like particularly to be there. Come into this field of kindly awareness. And we feel our outstretched hand reaching towards them. Coming back to that left hand resting in our lap. Actually, you might even want to put it over your navel. Hold your navel area. Really touch base with yourself. And allowing that energy will flow naturally to all beings. We're just going to sit now for 5 minutes, enjoying that cycle of energy.